Out the S&P 500 futures here on a 1-year 1-day chart. Nice action today by the bulls. We saw price break up and over that secondary 61.8 in the Globex session, and from there we pushed all the way up today into the secondary 50 as well as that tertiary 38 too at 27.34 to 27.38. You could also put a retracement from this previous high here down into the lows, and let's just go ahead and make that green. And you see that's also the 61.8 of even that shorter term range, right here at 27.38. So pushed up here into this range, pushed into this huge node of volume up here. Thought there for a second that we were going to hold over the 50, and it's still possible to retest up and over that 27.14. But for now, finding resistance from 27.40 down past 27.13 at the short-term 50. If price remains below the short-term 50, I would expect a gap fill down here into the open today, 26.84.5 it looks like. Very prominent location here with the secondary 61.8 and primary 23.6. Down here from 26.77 to 26.88. So certainly a test there into that gap fill. If internals are looking well, probably a nice bounce, even if it's not a bounce to move up and higher, probably still a bounce to move and retest this 27.13 area, I would think. If we lose this 26.77 area, have probably a few more issues to worry about. Next support is the 23.6 short term at 26.55. The primary or the secondary 76.4 down here at 26.27. And then the previous low at 26.03. If we lose 26.03, and big if we lose 26.03, looking at February lows at 25.29 as well as this primary 38.2 at 25.10. Wouldn't foresee us going any lower than that without a sizable bounce, but next retracement level all the way down here at 23.74. To the upside, if we want to go back to the 1-year chart, really to play an upside move I wanted over this 27.30. There's a lot of volume here between 27.14 and 27.30, and we've already tested up here once, so I'd rather just play up and over this level to move into 27.75, 27.87, this general area for the next upside move if we do get that break. Apple earnings tomorrow after close, so definitely a mover. Go into NQ if we want. NQ a little bit healthier than the ES right now. You can see that in the NQ price is actually trading within this volume node still, and also over the secondary 50 from the low in 2018. So for this one, what we're looking at, obviously Apple's going to be a big deciding factor, but right now, so long as NQ remains over this 69.46 area, can hold a little bit more bearish or a bit more bullish nature to it than the ES. Could certainly create, maybe if you're in a bullish camp, create a long position here to move up into the 70, 67, 71, 50 area, maybe even 72.90. If you're bearish, you wait. Certainly interesting to see the ES and the NQ set up a little bit differently here within volume. Certainly playing the ES if you are more bearish, and the NQ if you're more bullish at this point. Certainly hard to say much until Apple reports, though, holding 13% of the NASDAQ. So, but we can go in and check out some holdings. First, Apple here before the bell and before earnings. Following wedge type scenario here, if we draw the retracement from the previous earnings gap, price held the 61.8 as well as the falling wedge low here at 211 the other day. Got that gap up today into volume. Large amount of volume here. We can probably put it on the 6 month, and you can see this very large build out here. If regardless of the way that Apple breaks in earnings, it should be pretty substantial. You would think if it gets up and outside, we could do something like this. So let's just say it gets up and outside of 225 to test 233. If it breaks outside of 233, possible test up into the 250s. So pretty major move coming out of this node, and if it breaks down, you know, if it loses the 50 and then, you know, 215 and then comes down and loses the 61.8 at 211, Move possible down here all the way to test through this gap fill into the earnings previously. Down here around the 192 where this volume node is on the 6 month. So certainly a big move out of Apple either way possible. I think the market is hoping that Apple beats and does well and moves higher to carry this market, but what it does we'll just have to find out. No reason to speculate, we can just sit here and watch. Certainly can build positions in other stocks that aren't as affected by the market and Apple. Okay. Google here. Nice bounce off of the 3-year point of control here on Google at this 1055 area. Very large volume node here. Price holds the primary 38.2 at 1056 here on the weekly, and now is on the underside of the 61.8 at 1101. If we want to go into a 1 year, we can see that rejection at that secondary 61.8 today at 1101. We could do like a short-term fib here, and if we wanted to play short off that 1101, if the market breaks down, you have targets at 1084, 1069, the major retracement back here at 1055, and then the gap fill down here at the tertiary 61.8 at 1045. Even if it comes down in gap fills down here into 1045 and then recovers this 1055 to 1057 range, probably still good for a nice swing long here through there as well. You could just, once it sets a low, do something like this, but it looks like even if it comes down and retests down here into 1045, it looks like a push can still be made all the way up into the 1080. So certainly a couple plays here on Google to watch for. Alternatively, if it breaks over the secondary 61.8 at 1101 and holds a daily close, it looks like it's having issues holding daily closes here. If it can hold a daily close over this 1101, then a push back up possible into the 1137, 1145 area with that secondary 50 and primary 23.6. Amazon, interesting here on Amazon. I kind of want to go back to, is this far enough? Oh, come on, Thinkorswim. Of course. Okay, so first I put a Fibonacci retracement on Amazon from the all-time low at 131 up here into the all-time high. Primary 23.6 projects at 1567, and so far holding that level. If we want to go into a shorter term, this is the 3-year. We can certainly see that this area has acted as support and resistance many times, and currently doing so here as well. On the 3-year, a nice volume here as well. We can go into a 1 year here, look at it a little bit closer. And so we see that the 1 year point of control here, 1585 or so. So nice volume support down here as well as that 23.6. There's a gap fill open down here as well, a lot like the Google play. A gap fill is just down to the 61.8 of the short term. So you can see I drew a fib from this this low up here into the current high. Projects the 61.8 at the gap fill at 1532. So similar to Google, even if we see this flush down to fill the 61.8, and we see a bounce off this 32, which we should, 32, 33, test up here into this volume at 1566. Could do like a sell half here into this test and then see if price pushes higher just off this gap fill into the 23.6 here at 1611 and possibly higher out of that. We see there's not a lot of volume here between 1611 and 1695, so that could probably be a pretty good play here as well. Just to get long over the support at 1611, 1612, hold into 1624, break over 24 gives confirmation on that move higher. At least up here into volume, it looks like volume resumes somewhere up here in like 1683, so 1683 to 1695 for a target. There on Amazon if we see that bounce up and over. GS. Alright, so GS 3-year weekly here. Very interesting situation here on GS. A lot of volume built out here over the last 3 years. Point of control sitting here at 226. And so far, all of the weekly closes have been rejecting price at that point. The primary 23.6 is here in range at 221, as well as the secondary 23.6 at 224. So what I'm worried about, I think, on GS, and this is certainly one of those plays that if the market goes lower, I'd be watching for. But if price loses to 21.5 for a substantial period of time, and we lose these 208 lows, there's not a lot of volume down here. A lot of extension or expansion bars here from 190 or 178 all the way up here into like 217. So if we lose this current support, I would be worried that we could rotate down into 188, if not all the way down here into like the 160, 170 range. So certainly something to watch out for if we do see another move lower and if financials are involved in it. Facebook. Alright, so Facebook, we have the primary fib drawn into the all-time high, and then this secondary, I believe it's from the, edit. Okay, there we go. So we have a fib on the all-time Facebook 38.2 here at 141.81. We see that price bounced off that level pretty well down here into the lows this month. We can go here into the 3-year. We see that we're still under this downtrend. Not a lot of volume down here, supportive. More volume up here from 157 down here into like 150. See if price can hold there. Would expect that we see this rejection hold and at least this gap fill. A lot of these NASDAQ stocks kind of set up pretty well for like a pullback and then another push higher. If we do get that push higher, really just going to have to pay attention to the internals, pay attention to the market, and see how everything goes. Apple earnings is going to be a big one coming up, and as well as we have the election cycle next month or next week. So I certainly think we'll see some resolve out of stuff then. Baidu, an interesting candidate here, pushing down into a substantial amount of volume here. If we want to go into a monthly, we can see that price is at the push down into the primary 38.2 here at 177.35. It looks like that is also the TPO profile 20-year monthly. So pretty substantial area here. Secondary 61.8 also at 170. So very large area of support here on Baidu from 170 really all the way up here into the 190 range. Spent a lot of time here, so certainly going to see this be supportive so long as price remains above this 170 area. How to play it, let's go into a little shorter term chart. What I'll probably wait for is this 192 break. If we get support over this 192, it looks like there's maybe a little short-term downtrend like this. So up and over 192, up and over this downtrend, can play it back up here into 213 to 218 probably would be a decent target. Coming out of volume into less volume, so might see a nice move higher. Would watch this previous uptrend as resistance as price does move higher if it's quicker. If it's a slower pace break, then we won't have to worry about this previous uptrend. But for now, you could also, assuming this is the low, do something like this for additional upside targets. That 23.6 here at 203, and then a break up here into our final target at 213, 218. Let's see, IBM, what do I want? Oh, Max. IBM, kind of interesting. Here we have it on the all-time chart, the all-time low 1016, the all-time high 215.9, and so we can see prices come off substantial here, now testing into the 50 at 113.03. Certainly an area to watch for support. I think this is large area on the 20-year monthly as well. So I think worth a watch here at the 113 area for a possible bounce. Price has moved higher every time it's come down into this level. So even if we could get a bounce here at 113 to play up into the longer term 137, I think that'd be nice to have. We could put a fib on from the all-time high down here into this current low at 114, and still projects that secondary 23.6 up here at 138. So a lot of room to work with in this range, 114 to 138 think probably a pretty substantial move. Maybe just, it looks like it took maybe 2 months over here, maybe like a couple months to get back up here into this 138. Should we see this market recover and bounce? Could go into like a shorter term. Yeah, I mean, it took 3 weeks for this to break down. Watch for maybe 3 to 6 weeks for it to break back up. Certainly an interesting place. I think that we want to see price get back over this previous low here to be a buyer, or you want to see price test down here into 113 and hold to get it on the low side though. GC. Just kind of wanted to, I don't usually look at gold, but kind of just wanted to go over it again. We have a fib from the all-time low into the all-time high, and price currently at the 38.2 of that move. Kind of just wanted to illustrate the amount of volume and time that's been spent in this general area from 1170 all the way up into 1380 or so. It would look just like a general, I mean, it looks like a consolidation pattern here right now. Could probably even call it like an inverse head and shoulders. Obviously, if it breaks out, you have one side, the head, and then the right side here as well. Certainly just watching this tertiary 61.8 at 1172 to hold a support. If not, we can see price walk back down here into the 1045 area. Really hard to do anything unless you're, you know, trying to just build a long position in this range. Obviously, I've got my alert set up here at the 1380 area. We'll be watching for that for a major break into 1480. But for now, just kind of dormant. Not really a big fan of trading consolidation, so just leaving gold alone. So that's what I am looking at right now in the short term. Futures trading higher here, about 5 points, back over that secondary or the short-term 50 at 27.14. So watch to see if it pushes back up here into the 27.30 area here in the late night session. Obviously, decent risk reward there. A little bit of volume here in range, as well as an uptrend. So it'll be interesting to watch and see where tomorrow opens. Hard to really do much with the market until Apple reports. I think that's going to clear up a lot of things, but still we have elections next week as well. So a lot on the plate. Really just need to sit, watch, only position into these stocks that we find in quality setups, and kind of just sit out the B setups and C setups for now, I think. If we do that, I think we'll be fine for when this market finally shows us the next direction.